and is an expert on vaccines and vaccinations. So there could be nobody better than him to tell us about the various vaccines available, the effects, the efficacy, etc. Besides that, he's been the past president of the Indian Pediatric Association, and so a very distinguished and eminent doctor, well known all across the country. So with very less ado, I will welcome him on behalf of AIPC South Mumbai, and welcome Dr. Saab to our chat, and glad to
Thank you.
have you with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind introduction. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Kumar,
Thank you,
please.
Sanjeev.
Yeah.
I would now request President of AIPC Maharashtra, Advocate Matthew Anthony, to speak a few words and set the tone rolling for the discussion today.
Thanks, Kumud. On behalf of the state leadership of AIPC Maharashtra, Vice President Sumit Gaekwad, State Secretary Sara Barwal, the Interactive Committee Head Sanjeev, Dr. Solkar, the Secretary of the South Chapter, who has been kind enough to get Dr. Shah. It is indeed a good moment for us, to have a political conversation, which is really required for the civil society to understand, because there is so much of concerns which is going around. A few concerns, because I've been traveling across, and we come across these questions that for all these years we couldn't find a vaccine for AIDS. For all these years we couldn't find vaccines, for some other illnesses. But for COVID, in a year's time, we are getting a vaccine. So there are doubts, there are concerns on the side effects, there are concerns on how it will impact people with comorbidities. So in an era where we are facing a lot of fake news, fake pushing of news, or in innovations without any scientific supports, it is always a privilege to hear from a qualified, trained, experienced, recognized doctor to know about how this COVID vaccination works, because there are some controversies surrounding the COVID vaccination as well. So we are eager to know how a common man's life will have its impacts, the side effects, or how safe it is from you with respect to the vaccination. So that's from my side, and I'm really thankful for all the people who have done the organizing of this particular interactive. Special thanks to Dr. Solkar to get Dr. Shah on board, and thanks to each and every one of you. Thanks to all the entire audience who had come to attend this one. Thank you. That's all from me, Kumud. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Now I hand over the stage to Dr. Solkar
Thank you,
to take the
Kumud.
conversation further.
Thank you, Kumud. Thank you, Matthew and Sanjeev. I welcome Dr. Nitin Shah. Let's start off with a discussion for today, and that is about COVID-19, which has taken over the whole world in the last 1 year. And everybody is worried, frightened, scared, threatened, I would also say. So I would start. I would start by requesting Dr. Nitin Shah to kindly enlighten us a little bit about what is COVID and why is it a new virus, and why are
Okay.
people so scared about it, sir?
Right. So on December 30th, 2019, the China CDC actually reported to WHO that they are seeing a spate of people with pneumonia, and they are dying, and they are not able to find the cause. And it looked like some new pathogen. And they had already started investigating, trying to find out what the etiological factor is. And initially, there was a disbelief within China. And we all know that the leading doctor actually who reported these cases, he was sort of given warning and sacked. And he actually himself died of corona. And afterward, the state machinery in China actually apologized to the family because he was right. And then the investigation started, and they found that this is a new virus called as coronavirus. Now, coronaviruses are not new. We already know 6 of them. Most of them lead to some common cough, cold like viral infections. 2 of them are notorious, namely the MERS and the SARS. The SARS was the severe acute respiratory syndrome virus, and the MERS was the Middle East respiratory syndrome virus. Essentially, having the same feature of someone having fever, pneumonia, deteriorating very fast, and dying of it. Fortunately, the SARS and the MERS outbreaks got curtailed on their own, though there were vaccines made for them, but they really didn't become global. Whereas this new coronavirus, what now is known as COVID-19, went out of the hand and has spread like wildfire, and is leading to deaths, which is more than what a normal viral infection or a pathogen leads to, especially in people who are above the age of 50, 60, and those who have comorbidity. And as we did not know how to respond to this virus in the form of treatment, in the form of investigation, in the form of managing them in the hospital, to create facilities to treat this patient, because we knew from Italy that they had to keep people out of the hospital at home on oxygen, and there were several who died without treatment. So all that led to such a panic both in the public and in the private mind, that people recognize this as a major threat. And in fact, WHO did declare this as a global pandemic, and this is the first pandemic that we have really faced. We had the one on the novel flu in 2019, which was not as bad, but this is quite bad. As you know, more than 8 crore people have been infected and several have died, including more than 1 crore infection in, symptomatic infection in India alone. So that makes this virus very special because it kills, and we did not know how to respond to it.
Sir, how does one know whether he or she has COVID?
All right. So as I said, COVID is a respiratory virus. It gets entry through the nose mainly, or through the mouth. It can also enter through conjunctiva from the eyes. That's why we wear goggles when we are in contact with the patient. And after this virus gets entry into the humans, it gets attached to the respiratory epithelial cell, which is the lining of the respiratory tract, right from nose to the pharynx, that is your throat, to down the lungs, including the windpipe. So when it gets attached to it, it gets entry into that the respiratory tract, and then it percolates down all over the body and also down to the lungs, and it leads to symptoms. So the symptoms are usually fever, some cough, cold, and 2-3 symptoms which are specific to this viruses are loss of smell and loss of taste. So what we call anosmia and ageusia. So that's very typical. In some, it just ends there. So it behaves like a typical common cold fever like scenario. And in some, you are unfortunate, the disease become more severe, and it leads to breathlessness, and even many times without breathlessness fall in the oxygen saturation levels, what you call hypoxia. So these are people who normally, if you have a pneumonia because of any reason, you do become hypoxic, your saturation goes down, but you feel breathless, you feel tight in the chest, you need to breathe very fast, you feel sick. Whereas there are several people in COVID-19 whose saturations were low, dangerously low, and still they were not breathless, what we call happy hypoxia. And these are the people with happy hypoxia who are generally missed in the early period and then landed with serious illness in hospital, and many of them succumb or are in ICU, on ventilator, and so on and so forth. So this is a very unique virus which leads to happy hypoxia. And that's the reason why anyone who has COVID, whether he feels breathless or no, has to look out for hypoxia, low oxygen. That is tested by low oxygen saturation. Now everyone knows, everyone has one oxygen saturation machine, what we call pulse oximeter at home. So they can check on that and they can find out that they are having hypoxia. So this is the typical. And then once it becomes bad, then you will become very breathless. You have high fever, your counts go down, your lymphocytes go down, your platelets can go down. You need to be administered oxygen, some drugs, IV fluid. You may develop diarrhea. You may develop very high sugar even when you're not diabetic, because this virus also affects the pancreas where insulin is produced. So you become progressively sick. And then a time may come that the oxygen requirements are so high that we call what you develop ARDS, or acute respiratory distress syndrome. Many will go into ventilation, and some of them will not make it and they would die. This is a scenario from a completely asymptomatic patient where he has no symptom, but if you take his swab, it is positive, to a symptomatic patient who is in ICU and dies. There is a range of manifestation between the two that one can have. But generally, 85% of the infections are asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic, who can be managed at home. 15% are symptomatic enough to be hospitalized. And around 1 to 2% is the death rate. But when you talk about 1 to 2%, if you have, say, 10 crore patients in the world and 2% die, it's a huge number who have died.
Exactly, sir. So one more thing that has been seen is the fear factor And especially it has been seen, sir, in the younger patients, it was more of the fear factor which took its toll.
Correct.
So your comments on that aspect of
Right.
comorbidities, older patients dying because of actual problems, but the younger
Yes.
patients, 20s, 30s, and 40s who died, who are absolutely fine before
Correct.
getting COVID. And what do you have to say about the fear factor that has caused deaths
Correct.
in these children and
So
patients?
remember, it's not that they die of fear. It has led to a lot of psychological illness in the community in every aspect. Loss of jobs, loss of money, no socialization. Human is an social animal, so to be away from families, children not missing the school and teachers, friends, not able to go down to play. There are a lot of psychological component we have seen in children. Children coming with breathlessness, they will typically say, सांस नहीं लेता है डॉक्टर सांस नहीं लेता है they will come like that, or they will come with hyperventilation, so they say they have to in between take a deep breath. Some of them have social problem that they become very quiet, aloof, etc. They have some symptom which you can't describe because of some illness, so these are all psychological, but that is not really death. The death in any COVID patient generally is because of neglect in the first few days. And I repeat, it is the neglect in the first few days. Even an 80-year-old man with diabetes and blood pressure, if treated in time, can be saved to a large extent. But if you have not taken proper care and you thought that no, you are all right, and you went with 60% saturation to hospital, then no one can save you at that time. Now, generally, the death rates were more in people with comorbidity, especially if they were also elderly. But it's not that young people cannot die. We have had even children who have died of COVID. So it's not like that. Like say, of the total COVID, less than 2% is in children below the age of 18 years. But still, there have been some deaths even in children. So no one can say that, no, I am safe just because I'm 30 or healthy, I'm an athlete, and nothing will happen to me. No, you have to be monitoring your saturation. You have to be taking care of yourself, take a doctor's advice, and take proper treatment. And then probably you will not land into a big soup.
Okay, sir. So how would you diagnose COVID and who all require admission, sir?
Correct. So when you have any of the symptoms, or if you are in contact with a known COVID patient, like the family members, or like the workplace people who are in contact with the person, or you had a party at home and one person is found to be infected, all others who are in that home, that is what you call a social contact. Now, what is a social contact? Sharing the same room for more than, say, half an hour to 1 hour without distancing and without wearing a mask. This is a typical scenario in a home or a party or an office. So anyone who is symptomatic should be tested for COVID, obviously. Anyone who is in contact with a known patient, he becomes symptomatic, that contact should be tested that time. But suppose you are not symptomatic, then between 5th to 10th day of the first day of the symptom in your contact, like suppose I have COVID and my wife doesn't have anything, then on 5th day she should undergo testing, or before 5th day if she develops fever, cough, cold like me. And if any one of those who are positive, their contact. So that is what we call contact tracing. This type of contact tracing has really helped us to curtail the outbreak to a large extent in lots of parts of the country, especially in Mumbai and Maharashtra. So
Okay, sir.
what test to do now is the gold standard is RT-PCR. So what is RT? It's a very technical term. Basically, what you detect is the nuclear material of the virus from the swab that you take from the nose and the throat. So what you call nasopharyngeal swab. Now, the person who is taking nasopharyngeal swab should be trained enough to take how properly to take the swab. So the swab has to be passed on the floor of the nose till the time it hurts you, and then rotate it there for few seconds and then take it out. And same way on the throat, you touch the tonsils of the patient, so the patient gags actually. Then you know your swab is taken properly, and that is subjected to the RT-PCR, as we call. Everyone knows RT-PCR. That is the gold standard. It is very highly sensitive, very highly specific. Now it takes 24 hours for this test report to come. So now there are some rapid tests that have come. One is what you call Gene Expert, where the same swab report you can get in 3 to 4 hours. And another is an antigen test, where you don't detect the DNA or the RNA material, nuclear material, but the antigen of the virus, which report can come in half an hour's time. Now, these antigen tests are not very sensitive. So you can do it as a screening in a mass, like suppose a flight is to go. You can do all 400 passenger, and in 1 hour you can find out anyone is infected or not. But in hospital setup, generally people don't do antigen test. Even if antigen test is done and if it's negative, you have to repeat one RT-PCR. And then lastly, antibody test. A lot of people know about antibody test. Antibody is not to diagnose COVID now. When your antibodies are positive, which means you had COVID at least 2 to 3 weeks before your blood test is taken today. So it's more to find out whether you were infected in past rather than whether you are infected now. So no one should do an antibody test to diagnose when they have cough, cold, fever. You do antibody test in second or third week, ideally in the third week of the illness.
Thank you, sir. So, what do you have to say about home monitoring and home remedies?
Correct. So now once you have COVID, you need to decide what treatment to take, right? So who are the people who should be hospitalized? Let's find out that. Then rest of the patient can be at home automatically. So anyone who is more than 50 or 60 having comorbidity, especially more than one comorbidity, should initially get hospitalized because he can deteriorate very rapidly. So suppose you are 65, you have
Right.
diabetes, and you are also obese, your weight is more, then it is better to get admitted, get monitored, and then come back home. Anyone who is having hypoxia, which means our saturations are below 94 at rest or on 6 minutes walk test. Now people don't know about this 6 minutes walk test. They keep on checking their pulse oximeter and feel very happy that is above 95. Remember, when you stress your body, your oxygen demands go up. If that time your heart and lungs are not working well, it will not be able to meet with the demand and your saturations will drop. So you walk for 6 minutes in the home, or for a small child, you can do hop up, hop in, say around 20, 30 times. So you stress your body and then you check your saturation. If it goes below 94, then that means you need oxygen, you need to go to the hospital. Or if there's an acute drop by more than 3, in your saturations. So suppose your saturation always 98, 99. Suddenly they become 94, 95. Again, you should not wait and go to the hospital. Anyone who has got very high fever, anyone who's not able to eat well, drink well, not able to pass urine, anyone who's having uncontrolled diabetes, uncontrolled blood pressure, chest pain, etc., obviously, even otherwise, would be hospitalized for any other illness besides COVID. So these are the people who need to be hospitalized. Rest all who don't fit to any of these criteria can be managed under medical supervision at home.
Can't hear you.
We can't hear you, I think.
Doctor, we can't hear you.
Now,
Yeah, now we can. Yeah.
okay. Suppose if you have a contact
Hmm.
we have a contact with a patient who is positive, how do you go about with it within the first week of your contact?
Right. So as I said, a person who is in contact with a known COVID patient is likely to have contracted the infection unless proven otherwise. So first of all, he should quarantine himself. It may be home quarantine or institution quarantine, depending upon whether you have an extra room where you can stay and an extra toilet so that you don't use the same toilet as the patient. Otherwise, you can get infected again and again from him. So a lot of people who are in chawls or who are in the slums, unfortunately, had little poor living condition. They were having only public toilet or community toilets. They were necessarily quarantined even when they were asymptomatic in institution. And that's the reason why these jumbo centers in BKC, in Rescourse, in Richard St. Crudas ground, and so many other places, they were made essentially for quarantine of this patient. So you quarantine yourself so that you don't spread to others. Now you wait for symptom. If you develop symptom, test yourself. If you're asymptomatic, then on day 5 to day 10, between any time between these two dates, you test yourself. And if you are found to be positive, then you quarantine for 17 days as per the government guideline. And most of the international guidelines say quarantine for 11 days, especially if you have no symptom for last 3 days, is also enough. And there is no need to do a retesting because test can remain positive for 3-4 weeks. So there's no point in keeping on doing retesting if you are asymptomatic. But if you are symptomatic in ICU, then yes, you are retested till you become negative. So that is what you do in a person who is in contact with the known COVID patient.
So, regarding the protocol of wearing a mask,
Correct.
who all and which mask should a person wear? Because nowadays, earlier the masks were in shortage, and nowadays all homemade masks have come into.
Correct. Correct.
People are just taking some piece of cloth and they've made a mask. Now,
Correct.
how effective is that? And
Correct.
your comments on it.
So I will explain this little explanation, because then people will wear mask. Otherwise, they'll feel it's a compulsion thrust upon them without any science behind. So we know how does COVID virus spread from one person to the other person. Now, when I'm speaking, I throw a lot of respiratory droplets. Now they are bigger than 5 micron in size. Those droplets will travel at the most 1 to 2 meters, that is 3 to 6 feet, and they will drop off on the surface. So if you are within 3 to 6 feet of me, then you can get infected from me. If I am not wearing mask, you are not wearing mask. That is why the concept of physical distancing or social distancing. I don't like word social distancing, because you are not really distancing socially. You are distancing physically. I can still talk to you on phone. I can still be on Zoom with you, and I can have all the things that I want to do with my family, but not be in physical distance. So that is the advantage. That is the whole theory behind this social distancing, or 2 meter ki duri. 2 meter 6 feet is duri. Now, when I talk, speak, sing, etc., or even when I breathe, I throw a lot of aerosol. Now, aerosol are very small particle. This particle remain in the air in circulation and can travel for meters together. So those will go in infected if a person is even beyond 2 meters from me. Now that cannot be prevented by this 2 meter distance. So for that, you need to wear the mask. If I wear the mask, I don't throw the droplet or the aerosol. You keep a distance of 6 feet. You don't get my droplet, but you can get my aerosol. You wear a mask, you don't get my aerosol, and we both are safe. Now, which mask to wear? So in a area where there are more likely that there'll be COVID positive patient, typically doctors' chambers, clinics, laboratory, hospital, mortuaries, etc., or a healthcare worker when working in healthcare facility is very likely to be in contact with the actual COVID patient. So he should wear what is known as N95 mask. Now, what is N95 mask? N95 means it filters 95% of this aerosol generated small particles. In other areas where there are open areas which are not going to be likely to be infected, yet there may be someone who is knowingly or unknowingly COVID positive, say like the shops, your hotels, restaurants, on the roads, or in the plane, etc. You need not wear N95 mask. A surgical 3-ply mask, a 3-layered surgical mask, the green mask that doctors wear, is enough. And in completely social areas, like at home, your servants are coming, when servants come, you want to wear a mask, or you're going out on the roads, etc. There is no need to even wear a surgical mask, because there is really it's not that COVID virus is there all over in the air. It's not like that. So wearing any simple cloth mask of 3 layers, again it must be 3 layers so that there is better filtration, is enough. So for common people in common areas, simple cloth mask. In areas where there is close contact, 3-ply mask minimum. In areas where there are patients, N95 masks by healthcare workers.
So, like you said, people when they cough or they sneeze, or they
Yes.
can, give out those aerosols. Now, these can land on any item that is there. Suppose you go to a shopping mall,
Absolutely.
or you go to buy
Correct.
something.
Correct.
How long does the virus remain infective on those surfaces? One, and second thing, suppose I go and buy something. What
Yes.
are the precautions I should take to help my family members from not contracting it from those items?
Correct. So when you go to a shop, you are likely to be infected by someone there, or you are likely to infect someone there, other way also. So you have to take precaution as if you are infected and someone else you are going to meet there is infected. So the minimum is a cloth mask. Ideal would be to use a face mask if you are going to enter a closed shop, a small closed shop where there is no ventilation. That's number one. Number two, you sterilize your hands after you are left from there, so that if you are inadvertently touched something which may have had these droplets by a previous person who came in the shop, then you don't get it. So you wash your hand with soap and water, or you sanitize it with alcohol based, with minimum 70% alcohol. Now remember, whether you wash your hand or you sanitize your hand with alcohol rub, it should be for 20 to 30 seconds, and it should be enough. So you take around 5 ml, and then you rub. And there are 6 steps. So the step one is palm to palm. Step 2 is finger to finger, changing the interlock. Step 3 is finger over the finger. Step 4 is your thumb. Step 5 is your nail bed, then your tip of the nail, and then your wrists. So these are the 6 or 7 steps. That is enough. And you sing happy birthday to you twice in your mind. That is 20 to 30 seconds. And do it slowly, don't do it very fast, like how you do it to your friend or your wife. And that will give you. So it's difficult to know how much 20 seconds is. So you sing twice your happy birthday to you, and that's enough. And then once you've done that, you are safe. And lastly, the fomites, normally virus doesn't remain for more than 2 to 4 hours on the surface, and not more than 24 hours usually on any surface. So if you have kept your clothes, etc., and given for washing with open water that is clean, and all the vegetables, etc., what you brought, there is no need to sterilize. Just putting them in warm water for half an hour is enough to clean it well, because there is no single case of COVID which has been reported by transmission from a food article, or for that matter, if you order food from some joints, and the person who comes and gives you the food, that food is never contaminated. It's the surface. So you clean the surface and take away the food and eat it very jollily without getting worried about getting COVID.
Right, sir. So now what we've heard is when people purchase these items,
Yes.
some of them have started keeping them in ultraviolet light,
Yes.
and some people have started doing gargles with methylene blue and
Oh
all
my.
these home remedies. Your
Correct.
comments, sir?
So first of all, the ultraviolet lights do kill the viruses. So normally in hospital where the patients are entering, we like how we have the security check at the airport, where you put something on the belt, it passes through the X-rays and comes out. Here it goes on the ultraviolet plate and comes out, so it becomes sterile. But at home, to do it for vegetables, for fruits, for your pen and everything is not required. Generally, even doctors, if they wash their hands and they keep their pen in the clinic for 24 hours, the pen becomes non-infective the next day. So really, there's no need to use a lot of ultraviolet based apparatus. A lot of people do their coins, their notes, their currency notes, purses, mobiles, etc. You can just gently wipe all this with a small piece of sanitizer on a say cotton. That's more than enough. So it's not really necessary to use UV lights in public at home. In hospitals, yes, but not at home. Now coming to this kadas, then gargles, etc., have not been found to be scientifically proven to prevent COVID. But you can always do a gargle with warm water, which is good for your throat in any case. You can always do nasal irrigation, like in past people used to do yoga, the Jal Netri. If you are believing in that, you do it, but it's not going to prevent COVID. What is going to prevent COVID is mask, distancing, and sanitization. A lot of people use methylene blue. Now, people may not use a dye, which is a chemical. It's supposed to kill most of the organism. So they take methylene blue and they do gargle with that. It only makes their mouth blue. It really doesn't do anything else. So don't be under the false security that I am doing this or I am doing that. I am taking vitamin supplement. I am taking vitamin C. I am taking zinc. I am doing this. That's why I'm safe. No, you will be safe by only 3 ways: social distancing, mask, sanitization, and now, of course, the fourth pillar, that is vaccine. But otherwise, all this has really no meaning in that sense. But a lot of people are used to drinking green tea even before COVID. They can continue to drink green tea, but it's not going to benefit from COVID point of view.
Right, sir. So now you mentioned the word vaccine, which everybody is actually waiting for,
Yes.
and the world is waiting for it. What do you have to
Correct.
say? How many types of vaccines are there, and how do they work
Okay.
with a special point on the mRNA vaccine, which has been advocated?
Okay. Okay. So first of all, there are more than 200 vaccines which are under trial. Most of them are in preclinical trial in animals. Around 40 or so would have entered human trials. Around 25 have entered the phase 2 trial. Around 8 vaccines are actually licensed somewhere in the world. Of these 8 vaccines, 4 are Chinese vaccines, which are licensed in China and also in UAE. UAE uses a wholesale killed Chinese vaccine from Sinopharma, made in the Yuan Institute. You have 2 mRNA vaccines, the mRNA vaccine made by Pfizer BioNTech and the mRNA vaccine made by Moderna. Both are US vaccine. They are licensed in US and several other European countries. And there are 2 other vaccines which are vector-borne vaccine. One of them is the is the what do you call chimpanzee adenovirus vector-borne vaccine made by Oxford University in UK, licensed to AstraZeneca for the world and to the Serum Institute of India for Indian and other developing countries. And the other vaccine, which is again a vector-borne vaccine, is what you call Sputnik 5 vaccine, a Russian vaccine, which has a human adenovirus as the vector on which the coronavirus material is put, and that is working as a vaccine. That vaccine is also being developed further by Dr. Reddy's laboratory in India. And lastly, traditionally vaccines have been killed vaccine, where you take any organism, you kill it and you inject it. So it does not lead to any disease, but it can lead to immune response. What we know is a wholesale killed vaccine. So there are two wholesale kill vaccine. One is the Chinese vaccine licensed in UAE, as I said, from Sinopharma, and the other is our own truly Indian vaccine, which is the research being grant given by ICMR. The virus was given by the National Institute of Virology, NIV Pune, and this vaccine is being commercially made by Bharat Biotech India Limited, which is another vaccine manufacturer from India. So that is known as Covaxin. The Oxford vaccine made by Serum Institute of India is Covishield. So Covishield and Covaxin are the two vaccines which are given not licensed but EUA, Emergency Use Authorization, which means they are not given a full-blown license like how it is given to any new drug or any new vaccine. But because of the catastrophe and people losing life, this has been given an EUA. So under restriction, this vaccine can be used for human use. And after the data is generated more and more in the trials that are ongoing, these vaccines will be actually given a full license. So the EUA is given to two vaccines in India. And the third vaccine, which is likely to get EUA in India, will be the Sputnik 5 vaccine made by Bharat Biotech, an original Russian vaccine. And lastly, Zydus is making its own DNA vaccine, which is entered the phase 2-3 trial. So that's another vaccine which is likely to come. So there are several vaccines which are already licensed or are on the verge of being approved for the EUA in the world. And there are several countries which have started mass vaccination program using one or other of these vaccines. Now, how these vaccines work? So how does any vaccine work? Suppose you want to take case of polio. So you have a polio virus. So when the polio virus enters your body, it will damage you. It can lead to paralysis, like how used to happen in past, and your body will respond to the virus and kill it by producing two types of response. One we call antibodies, and the other is what we call cellular response or T lymphocyte response. Both are equally important. Antibodies are for the immediate protection, and the T cell response is for your long-term protection, maybe your lifelong protection. So the same way the COVID virus, the part which leads to antibody production, that part of the COVID virus is taken away from the virus and is either injected directly or is injected a form of a killed whole virus, or this virus is inserted into another virus which does lead to human disease, like this, as I said, the chimpanzee adenovirus or the human adenovirus, or this virus, instead of giving the protein which leads to the antibody production, the technical term mRNA, which means this mRNA is the one which produces the antigen in the body. So instead of injecting the virus, the mRNA that produces that antigen, which is going to lead to immune response, is injected in your body. First time for human beings, mRNA vaccines are made to use. mRNA vaccines were always very exciting for last 2 to 3 decades. In fact, we had an mRNA MERS vaccine, mRNA SARS vaccine. We also had this chimpanzee adenovirus MERS vaccine and SARS vaccine. So it's not that they are new vaccines, but for human use, they are for the first time use. That's why there's a lot of confusion and excitement both about this mRNA vaccine. So mRNA, like, I'll give you an example. Suppose you get diabetes when your insulin is low in your body. Now this insulin is a protein. It is produced in your pancreas, right? So the pancreas cells have this chip in the cell, what is the form of a DNA, human DNA, chromosome, that this has to produce an insulin protein. So it cannot produce insulin directly. What it does is, the part which leads to insulin production, it is mirrored image in the form of an mRNA in the nucleus of our human cell. That mRNA comes out of the nucleus into the cytoplasm, into the fluid part of the cell, human cell. And there it goes to the factory, which is the factory ribosome, where these amino acids are floating. So when this mRNA goes there, those amino acids which are going to form this protein, they got attached there. And that thing is then spliced and made into a protein. That is your insulin. That insulin then goes through the network to the surface of the cell, and it comes down in the blood in the form of insulin. So for production of a protein, you need the DNA and the mRNA and the factory. mRNA vaccines are made mRNA of this COVID antigen, the spike protein as we call, in factory, injecting a human cell. Human cell will now produce this spike protein inside the human cell, and the immune system will recognize this and form an antibody, and you will get immunity. So that is as simple. So mRNA cannot enter back into the human DNA and get attached there forever and can lead to some havoc with the human DNA. No, no mutagenesis, no cancerogenesis, no damage to the human cell DNA. So not playing with the DNA, which can be a very dangerous game otherwise. So I want to tell everyone that mRNA vaccines are new, but they are extremely safe from that point of view.
So the two vaccines that are there in the market in India, sir, which types of vaccines
Yes.
are they, and how safe are they? Because
Correct.
whatever WhatsApp University news that we get, and we get other news and information from the media, is that proper 3-phase trial has not been done.
Okay.
So people are really worried that we are just being used as guinea pigs, and they are very skeptical about taking these vaccines.
Correct. So let me demystify the fear around the vaccines. Let's take the 2 vaccines from India. Then we'll take 2 more vaccines which are available in USA, because a lot of people feel mRNA vaccines are so efficacious that why are we giving? We should wait for those vaccines to come, and we'll discuss the pros and the cons. First, coming to 2 EUA, emergency use authorization given. First is the Covishield from Serum Institute of India, which is an Oxford vaccine. It is made by injecting the nuclear material of the COVID, not taking the whole virus, but just that part which produces the spike protein, and tagging it to the chimpanzee adenovirus. Now, as humans, we don't get chimpanzee adenoviral infection. So when you inject it, that chimpanzee adenovirus vector cannot lead to disease, but it will liberate this nuclear material of the COVID virus in our immune system, and immune system then will react to it and produce the antibody. So in that step, theoretically, it looks very simple. It is safe vaccine. The other vaccine, Sputnik vaccine, which is in rhizus, has human adenovirus. So this was chimpanzee adenovirus, that is human adenovirus. The technique is the same. You cut paste the nuclear material which you are interested in onto the virus. You infect the human with that virus. That virus is made such way that it can not lead to human infection, but it will liberate that COVID nuclear material, to which the body will respond in the form of antibody. Now, all these vaccines undergo from animal study to phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3 trial. Now, as far as Covishield serum's vaccine is concerned, a phase 3 trial has been done in UK, Brazil, and other parts of the world like South Africa. These phase 3 trials data is published in New England Journal of Medicine, peer reviewed by scientists, open to discussion in the scientific world. So it is not correct to say that this vaccine is not studied. It is studied, found to be efficacious, 70% overall, 90% in some cases, but 100% efficacious against severe disease or hospitalization, which means if you have taken 2 doses of this vaccine, then after that, even if you get COVID, first of all, you will not get COVID. If you get, it will be so mild that you will not get hospitalized. I think that's the benefit. If I get mild cough, cold, fever, which anyway I get 4 or 5 times in a year, it doesn't matter. So far I don't get hospitalized and I don't die of it. So that's how it is 100% efficacious against severe disease. So I think that is a plus point of this virus. This vaccine has been tried in 23,000 subjects in the world and has no severe side effect, which tells you that this vaccine is not safe. So, and also a trial on 2,000 subjects is already happening in India. Interim data is submitted to the authorities, and based on that, the emergency use is given. So be assured that this vaccine is extremely safe and is good to use. In fact, UK has already licensed its own this Oxford vaccine, same that we have from Serum here, and they already started using that vaccine for mass vaccination. The second vaccine which is given EUA in India is our own Indian vaccine from Bharat Biotech. Now that vaccine is a wholesale killed vaccine, and that vaccine also had undergoing a phase 3 trial on more than 20,000 subjects. Now the only thing is that data from phase 3 safety is available, but efficacy is not available. But because you want competition and it's our own Indian vaccine, this vaccine also has been given emergency utilization authorization in a control mode, which means people who will be given this Covaxin They will be informed that you are taking this Covaxin and they will have to give consent. Unlike Covishield, where such consents will not be taken, they will be just offered the vaccine based on the priority. So it's not correct to say that the vaccine has been licensed ad hoc basis. No, it is not. Vaccines are extremely safe. Covaxin has yet to prove its efficacy. That's his minus point. But I'm sure in another 1 or 2 months, the Covaxin efficacy data also will come. If it is not found to be efficacious, believe me, the EUA will be withdrawn. It's not permanent. It's not licensed. That's the difference between EUA and license. Now coming to the two vaccines which are used in Western world, the mRNA vaccine, the Moderna vaccine and the Pfizer vaccine. Both of them have shown 95% efficacy, which means if you take the vaccine, 100 people, 95 will not develop COVID. And for the remaining 5 who will develop COVID, like Covishield, it will be mild, it will not be severe. But those vaccines have a problem. They have to be stored at minus 80 degrees Celsius. Now, to store a minus 80 degrees Celsius vaccine in our country where such hot and humid and the cold chain is not that easy to maintain in the interior parts of the country, it is a dream for these vaccines to come. Even if they come, they'll be able to use only in metropolitan city where there is good electricity and good requirement of cold chain is maintained. The Moderna vaccine also has to be stored at minus 20 degree, whereas both the Indian vaccines can be stored at 2 to 8 degree. 2 to 8 degrees is your home refrigerator. So, and already we are having all childhood vaccination which are stored at 2 to 8 degree. So we have 27 crore babies born in India every year. We add one Australia in India every year from the population point of view. And we are giving free vaccination to the children, multiple of them. And these vaccines are stored at 2 to 8 degree. Every small district, every small primary health center has a facility to store at 2 to 8 degree. That's the reason why Indian vaccines are going to be really our rescue, as they can be stored at 2 to 8 degree. And it will be a dream for us to get Moderna or Pfizer vaccine with need minus 20 and minus 80 degree, even when they look lucratively so efficacious. Mind you, our Indian Covishield from Serum is 100% efficacious against severe disease. My worry is not getting mild cough, cold, and fever. My worry is not deteriorating and going to the hospital or dying of it, which is guaranteed when I take 2 doses of Covishield.
Sir, Covishield and Covaxin,
Yes.
which one?
So I will take Covishield because the data of efficacy is available, but people may not have choice. If they choose to take Covishield and if it's not available, I think it will be good to take any vaccine which is available rather than to wait for the most ideal vaccine. And you may be the next person to get severe COVID and die of it. So I
Right.
would say it's foolish to wait. There is never a perfect beginning in life. So
Right.
start with whatever is available and then you can always improvise.
So, who all should be taking these vaccines on a priority basis, and who all should not be taking these vaccines?
Correct. So the government has not opened up the vaccine EUA for private market as on today. It will be still through the government program initially. The Mr. Aday Punawala from Serum Institute is on the record to say that by March or April, probably they will be able to launch this vaccine in private market at a cost. But otherwise, through government program, it will be given free as on today. So the priority list is the first is the frontline worker, which includes doctors, nurses, people working in hospital, other frontline workers like police, firemen, etc. So there are around 2.5 to 2.9 crore such people in the country. They will be the first priority. The second priority is people above the age of 50 or people below 50 with comorbidities. And they are around another 25, 26 crore. So together we are talking about around 30 crore people. Each needing 2 doses, we are talking about 60 crore. Even if you take 10% as wastage, 66 crore number of doses we need. Serum Institute of India today is ready with 5 crore doses. So there is enough space for every new vaccine to come and help us. There is no fight between the two vaccines at all. There is no need to fight because one person cannot give 66. And this we are talking only 30 crore. After that, it will be opened up to all healthy people above the age of 18 years. And when the trials are done in children, even children will be given the vaccine. So, sky is the limit in a country like us where more the manufacturer, better it is for the country to control the disease faster.
So, the cost factor, sir?
So the frontline workers will be given vaccine free. That's what the government has said. They've said for the other, like people above 50 or below 50 with comorbidity, it will be either given free or at a cost. The cost will be minuscule, that I can tell you. But when it comes to private market, the Covishield, probably Mr. Punawala said that it will be almost like rupees 1,000 per dose. So if you need 2 doses per person, it will be around 2,000 rupees per person, which is much easier than spending lakhs of rupees in a hospital and having a threat of dying of the disease.
So one more question, sir, before I open it to the audience. Suppose a person has already got COVID infection.
Correct.
He has come out of COVID infection.
Correct.
Whether he can get reinfected is one. Whether he should be taking the vaccine because he's already developed antibodies.
Correct. So if you look at, there are 8 crore people who have been infected in the world, known. There must be at least another 20-30 crore who don't even know that they have suffered because they were asymptomatic.
Right.
Now, if you look at the repeat infection, second COVID infection, there are very few reports in the world, which means it is an exception. The rule is that you don't get COVID again. So if you don't get COVID again, then why you need the vaccine? So those who have suffered from COVID and they have recovered, they will be the last priority if they want to take a vaccine, and not the first priority. I would even say that if you are worried, you check your antibodies. If your antibodies are positive, which means you have also mounted a good immune response after your COVID infection, certainly you don't need the vaccine as of now.
So will we need booster doses for this, like other vaccines, like flu vaccine? Every year
Correct.
we have to take a booster dose since the strains of the vaccines keep changing, and we
Correct.
are already hearing that there is a new UK strain and other strains have come in.
Correct.
So,
So let me give you an example. Say measles is another respiratory virus,
right,
and COVID is also another respiratory virus, and influenza is third respiratory virus. What is the difference between the three? Measles, one serum, one vaccine type, one antigen, you develop antibody, you don't develop measles again in your life. So you take 1 or 2 doses of measles vaccine and that's it. Other end is influenza, which keeps on mutating every year. That's why it's a new vaccine every year, because it's a new virus every year. That's why you need every year vaccine. Between the two are other viruses. So while COVID has mutated, there is no indication that it has mutated so much that it will not be covered by the current vaccine, or you will need another vaccine. So as on today, mutation is a phenomenon seen with all living organisms. Even if you mutate, but the mutation should be so much that it will escape the antibodies or escape your natural infection antibodies produced because of previous COVID. That is not seen so far. The UK strain, the paper from BMJ very clearly says it will be covered by the antibodies produced naturally or by vaccine. Even the South Africa strain, there is a paper today saying that it has escaped 3 antibodies, but there is no one antibody produced when you give vaccine. There are multiple antibodies produced against the spike protein. So my gut feeling is not to get feared about if it is shown that there is enough mutation and you need, the vaccine manufacturers have already said that they will tweak their vaccine in such a way that they will be able to cover the new strain. So as on today, because of fear of what will happen tomorrow, let's not worry. Let's start taking vaccine today and get out of this mess once and for all.
thank you, sir. So hope most of the questions have been answered, but there are still quite a few questions in other people's minds. So I would request Kumud to start taking the questions from the audience, please.
Yeah, so there are, I think, 29 chat box messages. I don't know how many of them are questions.
Yeah, so I'll open it to the question queue. Please put in your questions in the chat box or raise your hand. The first question has come from Sanjeev. So whenever there is a new question, I'll allow the person to unmute themselves so they can answer. Sanjeev, since you're the first question, please continue.
Doc, I just wanted to ask you, this PCR test which is done and the number of cycles it takes to detect the virus.
Correct.
Does it have any proportion to the intensity of the virus, 36 being negative?
Yeah, absolutely. So more the viral load, faster it will detect in lesser number of cycles. So if your CT ratio value is lower, which means you have more viral load, but that would mean that you have more serious disease. So there are people with high viral load, but they are young and they become okay at home. And there are people who are elderly, but they have low viral load when they are still sick to be hospitalized. So it's not just the virus, it's also your body. How bad are your lungs? How bad is your heart? How bad is your health in general? Do you have diabetes or no, etc., which also leads to the severity of disease besides the number of viruses that are there in your body. So in general, yes, if your CT values are lower, you have high viral load.
Doc, just one last question. Does your blood group have anything to do with susceptibility of the virus?
It was believed like that a certain blood group can have more severe disease. But I think more than the blood group, it is the comorbidity factors. And of course, we did not discuss this, But anyone having chronic renal failure, diabetes, obesity, hypertension, now even believed is asthma, anyone who is a cancer survivor, any transplant like organ transplant or bone marrow transplant survivor, especially people with multiple comorbidities and the age above the age of 50 years, all these are high risk conditions which lead to more severe disease.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjeev. The next question is from Shweta Bansal. Shweta, please ask your question.
Yeah, hi, Nitin sir. Very good
Hi, Shweta,
information.
good to see you.
Yeah, sir.
we are
I was
not
waiting for your lecture.
we are not discussing anemia or cancer. Huh? We are discussing COVID.
No, sir. This is a very, very important topic now. Actually, a lot of the patients are asking these questions. So actually, I was waiting
Please
for
go
your
ahead.
lecture and was glad to
Please
attend
go
this
ahead.
lecture. So actually the most important question one is that patient is asking regarding Covaxin and Covishield, which you have actually explained very beautifully. The next question is most of the patients, like we have under 16 years of age, so they are not eligible
Correct.
for vaccination. And
Right.
and if their parents who are having comorbid conditions, they will be taking vaccination. So do they need
Yes.
to quarantine themselves, because most of the patients are immunocompromised, and the parents, when they take vaccination, will they be shedding any virus or something which need to be
Okay.
quarantined?
All right. So except Shweta, except for one vaccine, which is a live attenuated vaccine, which is still under trial with Serum Institute of India along with Codagenics company, all other vaccines are actually in that sense not live vaccine, which means like your mRNA vaccine is just mRNA, it cannot be transmitted. Your Covaxin is wholesale killed vaccine, so also other Chinese vaccines that cannot be transmitted. And the vector-borne vaccines are replication deficient viruses, which means once they enter your body, they enter your respiratory epithelial cell, the critical nuclear material for the assembly of the virus, so as it can come out and infect the next cell, is removed. So they cannot form the second cycle. That's why they cannot be transmitted. So all these vaccines are safe from that point of view. There is no need to quarantine, even if there is immune compromised host at the family. Yeah.
Okay,
And
great.
I must remind you here that all the donors, billions of dollars have been given as a donation or as a grant for this vaccine manufacturer to come out this vaccine. So those agencies have donated this money, whether it's US or anywhere, or Bill Gates, Melinda Foundation, they have a necessary condition that these companies will, after the prioritizing the vaccine trial in adults, because that's where most of the people are dying, they will also have a built-in efficacy safety data in 5,000 children. So all these vaccines are now undergoing children study. Once they are done, then even children will be eligible for vaccine. Why? Because children may not need vaccine to prevent COVID in them, which anyway may be very mild, but they can spread it to their
Right,
contacts like parents, grandparents, or teachers in the school who may be
right.
having comorbidity. So children ultimately have to have vaccine for the benefit of the community at large.
Okay, great, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Very nice information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kumud, unmute yourself.
Thank you, Shweta. Our next question is from Jennifer. Jennifer, please ask your question.
Yeah. Good afternoon, doctor. This is a more personal question. One reads
Yes.
about allergic reactions to the vaccines.
Right.
And I mean, I'm almost 67 years old. I have all the comorbidities. I'm also an young patient who gets frequent fungal infections.
Okay.
I shall be taking the AstraZeneca. Is my susceptibility likely to make me prone to allergic reactions?
Right. So the allergic reaction that we are talking about is to the mRNA vaccines, not the two vaccines which are in India.
Okay.
The two vaccines which are in India have never shown a single case of severe allergy in the form of anaphylaxis. Anaphylaxis is where you can suddenly die of it if someone is not there to resuscitate it. So remember, the Pfizer vaccine was the first to show these anaphylaxis, but all the cases that got anaphylaxis, most of them had already anaphylaxis in past because some or other reason. So this vaccine was yet another reason to get anaphylaxis. So they were all moving with what you call EpiPen, the epinephrine pen, so that they inject themselves the moment they have anaphylaxis. So that's not true for the Indian vaccine. So you personally, you are very safe to take the vaccine that is available in India. No issue.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. The next question is from Dr. Vasika Telia. Doctor, can you unmute yourself, please? Dr. Vasika? Please go ahead and ask the question.
But I do not have any questions, sir.
Okay, sorry, you had raised your
I
hand.
did not ask for the question. I'm sorry
Okay,
if
yeah.
there is a wrong
So
message.
we'll move on to Pravesh Gupta. Pravesh, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, yeah. So, Dr. Shah, it's great hearing from you, very enlightening. What I wanted to know was we hear reports that, we reached about 1 crore cases in India. And maybe the number of unreported cases, maybe 2x, 3x, I don't know. This is all something.
Probably 10 to 20x.
Okay, so if we are in a population of 140 crore, and then maybe if 1 in 3 patients have already had coronavirus, so aren't we reaching a stage of basically what we call community immunity? We hear cases like there's no new cases happening in places like in parts of Bombay.
I understand what you're asking. You're asking about herd immunity. So
Yes.
what is herd immunity? Suppose you have 100 cows moving around in a small area. If there is no protection against a particular disease of the cow, one cow will get it, will give it to 5. Those 5 will give to next 5 each. So 25, and there 25, no time, all 100 will be infected. Now, if suppose out of these 100 cow, around 70 cows are protected by some mechanism, one cow gets it, it meets the 5 cows, but all 5 are protected, the transmission breaks there. That's what we call herd immunity. So that the remaining 30 who are in the herd will not get it even if one cow gets it. But that needs 70 to 75% of the cows to be infected in that herd. So we need 70% of the population to be infected before we can have meaningful herd immunity. If we have 130 crore, we are talking about almost 80, 90 crore or 100 crore of us to get it before we can say that others will not get it. I think that will take long time, because if you have 1 crore infection and another 20 without knowing they are infected, you're still talking about 20% or less than 20% being infected. Not enough herd immunity. I think we should not wait for herd immunity. We should take the vaccine and save lives.
No, I have a question is basically like places like Dharavi and Mumbai by itself, when you have maybe more than 20 to 30 lakh people infected already.
And St. Parvesh, I will tell you one thing. This herd effect is only when the herd is not moving, right? So a cow shed 100 cows, they are in the cow shed all the time, herd effect will be seen. Those cows are going to move to the next herd, then the next herd, and the next herd. Those people from Dharavi, they are going to take trains tomorrow and they are going to infect you. So the herd effect is only for static population, not for dynamic population. So for dynamic population, the only way you can be really protected is that you either have natural infection or you have an antibody which is produced by your vaccine.
So there was these cases in 1920 when the plague was there, and they all went down after
1920 was flu, actually. Flu. It was the Asian flu, 1919, 1920, which killed 10% of the world's population. You're referring to that?
Yes, so it got over in a year or year and a half, basically.
Absolutely, but you know how many people died? 10%. You think 10% we can sacrifice? Fine, go ahead. Don't do anything. Shut all the hospitals. We will stop going to the clinics tomorrow. I'm happy because I'm not exposed. I don't take vaccine. I make merrymaking with my family till a lot of people die around me. Then I'll come out. That even Chinese will not do. Forget about India. That even Chinese will not do.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Well said.
Okay, next question is from Asha. Asha, can you ask the question, please?
Nitin bhai, after getting vaccination,
yes,
I will be immune from the getting infected again. But if I come in contact with a person who has COVID, will I get mild infection and I be contagious to family members?
Correct. So if you have taken Covishield, there are 20-30% chances that you will get infection, which will be asymptomatic or mild. And that time, if you have got infection, yes, you will infect your contacts. There is no doubt about that.
Okay. Even but if I take another vaccine where I am fully safe, but still because I may be carrying those virus.
No, so I want to ask you one question. That suppose in your family there are 10 people, why you alone are taking vaccine? All 10 should take vaccine, right?
Because of my age, I am the oldest at 79.
No, I understand. So you will get it a priority. After that, you will continue to wear mask, continue to sanitize yourself. So then you will probably not infect your family members as you are not infected till now.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Doctor.
So all others have to also take vaccine before you can say the whole family is protected.
That's the plan. Thank you, Dr. Saab.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Next question is from Mujib Parker. Mujib, please unmute yourself and ask the question. Mujib, please. Okay, so he's not responding. I think we had another suggestion and question from Jennifer is on post taking the vaccine, must the mask and other protocols continue?
Absolutely, to continue till the COVID is declared as out from the world, not only from country but from the world. So you cannot be resilient. Vaccination is not in lieu of sanitization, mask, and social distancing. It is in addition to these three SMS, as I call social distancing, mask, and sanitization. So that will continue for at least 6 months to 1 more year till the time the vaccine reaches a lot of people in the country, and then someone will declare that the pandemic is over, and then only you will be allowed to move without mask.
Pratish has also raised his hand. Pratish, would you want to ask a question? You can unmute yourself. Pratish, can you unmute yourself and ask the question? So we'll wait for Prateek. So the other question which I had, and you have already spoken about it, is on going for especially with the new strain of COVID vaccine being discovered.
Correct.
So in case of India, I mean, what do you think has been the kind of research that we have been doing? Because somewhere I think I was going through a NPR podcast and they talked about genome mapping that happened in
Correct.
UK and South Africa.
Correct.
Where they're almost doing some 10% of the cases going for genome mapping, and that's why the new strain was detected there. It did not necessarily mean that India did not have that new strain.
Correct.
It simply meant that we were just we were not doing much spends or much emphasis on research, and that's why it may have just already entered. So when the health minister of the country says that we do not have the new strain, one, it seems to be a lie, because I mean, if we have not done the research, we should not make a statement like that. And the second part was, if in fact, and especially in the case of the Bharat Biotech vaccine, if it is still in the trial stage, with what certainty should the government or any expert say that this vaccine is going to be helpful even for the new strain? Is that how the vaccinations work, or is that a right statement to make?
Correct. So coming to the first thing, that whether we have new strain, yes, we do have new strain cases. It has been confirmed in several places of recently, especially in people coming from UK and other countries. Number two, India was one of the few countries which actually had the complete viral genome sequencing. That's how we made our own vaccine, right? So we have to be proud of our scientists. Number three, there are PCRs which can separate detect whether it's a normal strain or a UK strain or a South Africa strain. So yes, that is part of the research that is going on at the virology centers, especially NIV, Pune, and other centers. So there's nothing to worry from that point of view. Now, this mutation, whether they are clinically significant, number one, whether they lead to more severe disease, no. Can they lead to more spread? Yes, they are known to be spreading more than the others. So that's the only worry. And the third thing about vaccine, as on today, none of the strains seem to have escaped the antibodies. Today only I read a report that there were 3 antibodies which could not kill the new South African strain, not the UK strain, but the South Africa strain. But as I said, vaccine produces a multiple number of antibodies, not just 1 or 2. So I think it's too premature to conclude that the vaccines will fail if this new strain spreads like wildfire. And so simultaneously, we start vaccination, and simultaneously we also start to curtail this COVID in general and this new strain in particular. That's why you see now, even when you're PCR negative, you are made to quarantine when you come back from UK for 1 week. So I think those type of steps will really help us to get away from these new strains. Coming to the vaccine, it's a big controversy and challenge, and reasons are best known to the authority as to why they have done to one vaccine versus the other vaccine. But I can for sure tell you, as far as Covishield is concerned, it's a vaccine which is given EUA very rightly, because it has phase 3 trial, published, peer-reviewed, international journal, data very convincing, also licensed in UK using it for mass vaccination, no iota of doubt about using that vaccine. Bharat Biotech vaccine, technically, wholesale kill vaccines are always traditional vaccines. They are found to be better. But if you ask me how much efficacious there is no answer to that. How safe it is very safe. So based on the safety, it has been given in a very peculiar way of EUA under trial mode, which means the person who is taking the vaccine have to give consent, like how you are part of the trial, that I am being given this vaccine and I know about it. And he will have to be followed up for side effects, etc. So, I mean, I can't tell you why this shortcut was taken in giving the EUA, but it's not that it's not a vaccine which is not studied at all and some 500 subjects have been given and that's the end of it. It's not like that. It also is undergoing a huge study on 20,000 plus subjects. Only thing is the efficacy, it has been licensed before efficacy data, whereas world over all the vaccines have been licensed not only based on safety but also efficacy. That's the difference between the two vaccines, and that's the reason why if you read today, probably also, I mean, I'm not privy to the last decisions, but it seems that the first lots of vaccines that will be taken by government to start from 16th of January will be Covishield and not Covaxin.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, sir. I just a follow up on that. Is there any historical record of any vaccine in the past being given EUA even before the efficacy has been released? Because that, I think, is the biggest question which people have been asking.
I think it was probably done for Ebola virus vaccine.
Okay.
So typically it is done for an infection which is really lethal. So where you don't want to wait for efficacy, even if the efficacy is 0, it doesn't matter. So far it's safe. So based on safety, the vaccine, because suppose if it's efficacious, it will save life, because Ebola had a huge mortality rate compared to COVID. So for COVID, probably that may not be warranted, especially when you have other alternatives available. But for Ebola-like infections, yes, it can be given. In fact, 3 months back, if you have to ask me this question, I would have said that open up all the vaccines which are safe. Even if they are not efficacious, it doesn't matter. It would be like giving just one injection without much use. But if it is efficacious, it would have saved so many lives, which we have lost in the last 3 months. So I am in favor of, in an emergency situation like this, where you have no answer and there are people, especially elderly, dying and the hospitals being choked up, etc., to open up vaccination as EUA, even without efficacy data. But we have not 1 but 7 vaccines with efficacy proven. Then to do that for one vaccine just because it's your own Indian vaccine, I mean, it's left to the authorities. I can't say anything further than that.
Thank you, Dr. Shah, for that.
Anyone else has a question to ask, Kumud?
Well,
no,
if nobody's asking,
done.
I would like to ask a question if there's nobody in the queue.
No, yeah.
Okay, Doc, I just want to know, why is this virus more lethal in Europe and US and not so much in India and Asia?
The type of lockdown that we have is unbelievable. The lockdown is hardly existing in USA and UK. Now they've realized the folly, so they are having strict lockdown. But it's too late. By the time the horse has left the stable, you know. So while we dislike almost an 8 months of imbroglio on everything, but I think we are getting the dividend of that now.
But Doc, it's nothing to do with the BCG or something vaccine which we have taken.
So remember, you know, the vaccination rate in Bombay is very high. 90% plus compared to rest of India, and yet we had the highest mortality of COVID in Bombay than in the rest of the country. I don't think so. The BCG, MMR, all of the vaccines were talked. They were also given by a lot of doctors when specific vaccine was not available. Now we know that you don't get COVID if you have this SMS, social distancing, mask, and sanitization. And now this specific vaccine, I think we should not worry about BCG and MMR.
Fine, thank you.
How long do you think, Dr. Shah? How long do you think, sir, that this whole thing will last? And
so this will last for at least another 2 years, if not more. And I'm not scaring you. I'm only making you aware.
So for 2 years, we cannot travel anywhere?
Yes. So keep a small bottle of sanitizer in your hand always. All right. Keep a spare mask. And this mask smells sometimes because you smell your own breath. So put a little attar, Indian perfume, on the outer of the rim of the mask so that you feel quite good.
Sir, you can also put a little Scotch whiskey, single malt.
I am a teetotaler, sir.
So one more thing I wanted to ask you. There's another thing going on social media and everywhere, that there's a chip inside this vaccine, and over a period of time, it will start locating you where you are and all those things. So can you please enlighten us with that, sir?
It depends on whether this vaccine is given by government or your wife. So if your wife has the right to give a vaccine, she will definitely put a chip on her, but not the government vaccine or
is
the
it a possibility?
completely rubbish.
Rubbish.
Even
Fair
the
enough.
Japanese have not been able to make such a small nanochip that can also go with that small vaccine inside the body and then get fixed somewhere and start transmitting for your life. I think people are imagining. Even I mean the Western filmmakers who made such fantastic fantasy movies cannot think of a chip going through a vaccine.
Wives would
Same
love to
thing-
inject their
same-
husbands with it.
Same thing was said about rupees 2000 note. Then there was a sham app which if you put on that 2000 note, it starts, then it shows Mr. Modi speaking something. I think it's all rubbish. I mean, it's good for fun, but seriously, it should not hamper anyone or anyone getting scared of taking vaccine.
Correct.
This vaccine cannot make you impotent. This vaccine cannot spread HIV. This vaccine doesn't have any chip to track you. This vaccine is only to do good to you, no harm to you.
Super. Thank you.
So there's just one more question that has come up. Sir, can I take it up?
Please, yes.
Ravi, can you please ask the question?
Yes, sir. Very enlightening session. My question is very kind of very silly kind of a question because
please ask.
so sir, almost 9 months are crossed and at least every month we felt some sort of symptom कि अब तो COVID हो गया. So what is the one final symptom you will say कि
Okay.
this is the thing that if you have this you had a COVID.
So if you have high fever, cough, cold and fever, not responding in 3 to 4 days time, certainly you should get a COVID test done. If you have loss of smell and loss of taste, 100% you should do COVID test, even if you don't have fever, cough and cold. If you are breathless, if your saturation is falling, I think you have woken up very late. You should not only do COVID, but rush to hospital.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
But don't have COVID or phobia that every fever you keep on testing yourself. It's not required.
Thank
So
you
for
very much.
COVID, do you need to have fever?
There's no need to have fever, but if you don't have fever and you just little cough and cold, in any case, why you want to test yourself? Unless you are in contact with a known COVID patient.
Right.
That's how the asymptomatic patients are missed. But you can't keep on testing everyone. And how many times you will do? Every month, every 15 days? There's no end to this game. So very standard protocols are there. You're symptomatic, you test for it. If you're asymptomatic, you don't test. If you're asymptomatic but in contact with the patient, you test.
Kumud, now bus ho gaya because rest of the people can go to Dr. Saab's clinic and consult him. Otherwise, you are
no. They can go to Solkar. He's a better doctor than me.
But you're at Hinduja.
boss
You're
is-
right next to my house. I'm coming to you.
The
If
boss
anything
is the
goes wrong
boss.
with me.
Please.
Boss will always remain the boss. Thank you very much, sir,
Thank you.
for your
thank you.
really enlightening session. I
Thank you
request,
very much.
I request Jennifer to give the vote of thanks, please.
Doctor, thank you for sparing the time. I won't go into all your various qualifications and talents,
Not
but one
required.
talent is clear that you've given us not only a frank, straightforward understanding of the vaccines and the illness, but you've also made us a little less afraid with your very straightforward approach. Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
Thank you, doctor. Greatly appreciate
Thank you.
your time and your,
Thank
your
you.
knowledge which you partake in with us.
My
Superb.
pleasure. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Sumedh,
Bye-bye.
would you like to say something?
Who?
Sumedh?
So where is Sumedh? Is he there?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here. Can
Yes, Sumedh, please.
so it was a brilliant session, doctor. Thank you so much, Dr. Solkar, for arranging it, and thank you so much, Dr. Shah, for coming in and giving up almost 1.5 hour. It's a brilliant session, and we got a lot of doubts which has been cleared now. So, doctor, with your permission, can we put this session on YouTube so that others can also benefit out of it? Because there was a-
Absolutely. Put it on YouTube, put it on your FB page, you put wherever you can circulate. No problem.
Superb.
I'll
Thank
be
you so
happy
much.
if more people benefit of what I discussed today so that I have instilled more faith, hope, and decreased fear. Then my job is done.
Too good.
Right,
Too
sir.
good, sir.
Right, sir.
Too
So
good.
immediately after that, we'll cut this and put it across on our YouTube channel.
Yeah. Please send the link to me so that I can also share it with my friends. Right.
Absolutely, sir.
Yes,
Absolutely. We'll do that.
Okay,
Thank you
bye
very
bye.
much.
Have
Thank you so
a
much.
nice
Thank you so much.
Sunday evening and have a
Thank
safe year ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, doctor.
Thank you.
Save your head at home.
Thank you very much, doctor. Thank you.
Thank you.
At home.
Thank you.
I'll end the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.